Cool. Okay, so I have this propped up on my shelf with some books. So we're gonna do a really old Space Marine kit up in the Imperial Fists pattern. So actually I'm missing a backpack, but yeah, I'll get that on there. Okay, so for the airbrush, I'm gonna load it up with some Vallejo surface primer in gray. So I'm just doing a few drops into the reservoir. I am also thinning it down with some Vallejo thinner, just to maintain that milk consistency. Here I'm taking a brush, a wet brush, and just mixing it all up so I don't get any uneven spray consistency. And then I do a little pre-spray, and then I make sure to cover the entire model with the primer. Or it may not be. Anyway, Brett Umber would do it. But this is this 71.038 camouflage, I don't know, medium brown? I don't know. So this brown is formulated for airbrushing, but I still added a little bit of thinner to it just to make sure it went on smooth. In order to get a good angle for underneath, I attached the model to a cork with poster tack. Holding the model upside down, I'm pre-shading underneath all the bits and pieces that would normally have shadow. Next step is Averland Sunset. That's when mixing these paints, I go to a 1-to-1 ratio mostly. I'm at the point where I can just kind of squirt and see what consistency I get, and as long as it's thinner than milk, I'm happy. After a little test run on the card, I go ahead and spray top down, and then from the sides, just hitting everything from all the angles except from underneath. I do spray a little underneath just to make sure I don't miss any empty spots. Here I'm explaining the GW Citadel color range. They usually do a base color, which was the Averland Sunset, and then the first highlight color, which is the Imperial Yellow, and then there's another highlight color which I can't read there in review, but it's just the third yellow. In White Dwarf, I think 66, there's a poster that shows you exactly what these colors are on all the spectrums from their bases. Okay, here we go. Get a little mixing Johnny down. Make sure it's clean. It's a very small amount of this good stuff, like that. I mean, I'm talking. That's a small amount. Okay. Mineral spirits. They say they don't smell, but they do, and they give me a headache. But totally worth it. So I'm gonna mix that in here. And consistency-wise, I don't know. I have not perfected this at all. Although I do know, I've noticed that if you go too thin, if you go too thick, it just paints it. But then if you go too thin, it gets too foggy at the end, the finishing. Where it pools, it gets really foggy. It's not very forgiving. The cool thing about this is that the oil really just shoots down all the cracks. It's pretty cool. So I'm just hitting everything with an oil shot. When applying the oil wash, you can achieve two things. You can either go with a dirty, dark, almost like a glaze effect on all of the color if you just paint the entire thing. Or you can go for just going for the cracks and the crevices underneath and filling in the recesses so you can get the proper shading effect. I would recommend the later. You could use apply a satin coat to this model before you apply the oil coat, the oil wash, but which would allow you to just wipe off the excess with like a paper towel or whatever, because there's like a protective layer there. You do get some bleeding effects with this, so it's just important to just be pretty accurate because it will run, but it does have, overall it's a good effect. And I found it in a Vallejo color. It's just heavy charcoal, they call it, but I've felt that this is like the very next shade for black, moreover than some of the stuff that GW provides. Yeah, I'm gonna hit these things metal, like the bulk on metal or whatever. Lead belcher. The sides of his head, doodads, lead belcher, and his little pack back here, lead belcher. And then it's up to you. You can either go black or whatever in this little the padding between the joints. So, and then of course the skull in the back and the aquila, and then the little embellishment on the gun. That's going to be either gold, or I would even say lead belcher might be cool with that, or you can go with the brass. Just get creative with it, but I think I just wanted to show you how this yellow happens and makes it look good. And of course you get the edges here, but I think yellow is a really good standout, and if you shade it right, you don't even have to do the edges of the shoulder pads. Alright, enjoy.